independent report. So the board was kind of given some kind of snippets ahead of time, but we wanted to also maintain the integrity of independence. So there are some things we'll be seeing for the first time, some things we've had kind of a heads up to, but it's given us some direction. So I'll preface some more comments. At Monday's board meeting, there were also some actions voted on by the Board of Trustees that have left confusion or ambiguity, because the board has voted to begin some layoffs for budgetary reasons, and all of those have not been implemented at this time, or they're in various phases. So we are working with our attorneys. So I'll ask if Attorney McGrath can kind of also give an update to the community on what's going on there.
Thank you, Trustee. A couple of updates since the meeting on Monday night, which a lot of items were brought out, specifically the village's finances, and why we're here tonight to go into more detail. But the board has decided to implement a hiring freeze. It was not able to be put on this agenda in time, but they want to know that, let the residents know that there's going to be a hiring freeze, that the village is just not able to hire any more employees in any department. There was some layoffs, and there's most likely going to be more layoffs, unfortunately, in the future. Since Monday's meeting, there's also been a number of instances of harassment in the workplace, threats to employees and elected officials. I have advised all staff and employees to document those incidents, and we are going to forward them to the Cook County Sheriff's Police Department, who by ordinance is the Inspector General for the Village of Dolton, and they will have the stronger arm to take action in regards to workplace harassment, retaliation, political work happening in the workplace, those kind of things. The ordinance, you can get a copy of it. It was passed about 10 years ago, but the clerk can get a copy and post it, and I think it would be a good idea to let everyone know what the sheriff is authorized to look into, and it's a lot of it. Once again, based on the board's directive, different individuals aren't following the board's directive. There was a deputy chief that was placed on administrative leave. He disregarded that and showed up the very next day. He then received a notice that he was terminated, and he despite being notified that he was terminated and in discussions with the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP, he again showed up today. Once again, the mayor has changed the locks at the Village Hall. Everyone will recall how orderly and how nice it was to walk into the village board meeting on Monday night when the Madam Clerk and the trustees had key fobs to get into the village. Once again, this is about the third time that she has changed the locks, so the elected officials do not have access and cannot get into the Village Hall, which belongs to the people. I got a call from an attorney this afternoon who unfortunately says I have a couple lawsuits that I have to file against the village. It's been pending in court, and I can't serve the village because I can't get to the clerk because the doors to the Village Hall are locked. So it's causing some real issues, and federal judges are aware of what's going on. But the locks have changed. Emails were shut off, and I had heard that Mr. Lacey and others have brought in their own IT person in an effort to gain access to their emails that were shut down. I don't know the status of that, but there's a lot of stuff that happens really, really quick. Things happen every day. You just cannot believe what's going on with this administration. But we're doing our best. These board members are doing their best. Ms. Lightfoot has a very good presentation for everyone, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions after, but I think we can move on from there.
Okay, thank you for that update, Attorney McGrath. Having said that, we're going to move to the next item on the agenda. We have a few, I would say, quicker points that we need to vote through, and then we'll go into the presentation, but I don't think that should take extremely long. I think we've all had the opportunity to vet these items, so I'll turn over to Village Clerk Allison Key.
Again, most of you guys know that my minutes are never put on the agenda for the regular board meeting, so I have to get them approved here. So I'll quickly go through the minutes, dates, and ask for the board's approval. So I'm asking for approval for minutes for May 6th, May 13th, June 3rd, and July 1st. I'm asking that the board would approve the 4-minute dates for minutes.
So moved.
Okay, Trustee Norwood. Aye. Trustee Tammy Brown.
Aye.
Trustee House.
Aye.
Trustee Belcher.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have nothing under old business. For new business, we put on here, we are still in, this is still a work in progress, but it will be one of the things we are working towards to move the village forward as one of our solutions. We are going to be reassigning the board committees so that we can reinstitute the finance committee, police and fire, personnel committee, housing committees. So that will be forthcoming on an upcoming agenda. We're still kind of identifying, I think we have the chairs identified, but we want to make sure that we round it out with good talent. So that will be coming on an upcoming agenda. Item B, we put out an RFP for review for bids on a new towing company or new towing contract. Want to highlight that we did it in the RFP format, so that way we can make sure we get the best bang for our buck. We made sure that there are 2 current tow companies that received the notification, as well as the notification being placed in the public newspaper, the Chicago Tribune. And at this moment, is my understanding, we have received 1 bid in for that contract, so we will ask, I will be asking for a motion to approve that bid. I don't know, did you have anything extra you wanted to add? Okay, the towing contract is with ENR Tow. So I'm going to ask, I'll make a motion that we accept the bid from ENR Tow Company to move forward with this contract, and I'll ask for a second, please. Second. Okay, here a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes. Okay, Trustee Belcher?
Just for discussion, I know that you just stated there are two companies right now that are doing the tow. I know in 2021, when we first got in, we approved one. Speaking to that company, they stated, and I'm waiting on a copy of the contract, that their contract is to 2026. So moving forward, even with a vote on this new one, will they still be towing for the village because we have a current contract?
So this proposal would be for them to be the second company while we review their contract. I will say the reason for this RFP going out are numerous complaints that we were receiving on various pricing being done for individuals being towed. People being towed for one day at $500, $700, and fluctuating rates. My concern being that they are violating their contract, is not benefiting the residents of Dolton, and we wanted to make sure that, we want to make sure that we have consistency in the towing fee, and we have a company that's willing to work with the administration as well, and most importantly with the residents. I did highlight or note in the bid that was given, it was a fee for the first day of $225, $25 going back to the residents of the village of Dolton for each tow that's gone in there, and they've promised to be good community partners. Additionally, they have a tow contract with the city of Chicago, so they are a very large and reputable company. But to answer your question, because I did kind of ramble a lot of things off there, but I just felt triggered, something came through me. The reason was because of contract disagreements. At this moment, it will be 2 companies, but as we review their contract, it may go down to 1.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that on record, because we don't want any pending litigation until we find out exactly what's going on, that they will remain in rotation until we move further. That's all. Thank you.
So noted. Any additional comments?
And I'm sorry, that's just for the tow company that we approved in 2021, because although we found out that there's 2 tow companies, we only approved 1.
Correct. Okay. Any additional comments? Hearing none, I'll ask Clerk Key for a roll call, please.
Trustee Norwood. Aye. Trustee Tammy Brown.
Aye.
Trustee House? Aye. Trustee Belcher?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, I'm going to switch the order around quickly I'm going to take D before C. Item D is an ordinance. I want to make sure I get the terminology. I got it. Do we have a number on there already? 24-008, an ordinance amending the village code to add the requirement of 2 signatures on check to allow the mayor pro tem the authority to sign documents. This motion is put in place. The current ordinance has 2 signers on our bank account, the mayor and the clerk, which is the rightful way. We have challenged that before and had other court proceedings. This ordinance would allow for, if the mayor refuses to do her fiduciary duty to sign checks that the board have approved, it makes sure that the mayor pro tem can sign in her absence. Again, only in the absence or refusal, because we are recognizing that many cases are refusal to sign, which are delaying many projects similar to this park district and other items. So we've been able to utilize this mechanism to make sure village business continues and goes forward in the proper manner. So and this is a procedural thing that we need as we have been in communication with the bank, because at this moment, we only have, the clerk is the only person that will be authorized, which is if the mayor refuses to sign. So this gives us the mechanism needed for the bank to authorize these signatures as well. So that's the reason for this. I motion that ordinance 24-008 be approved, and I'll ask for a second. Hearing a motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Key, roll call, please.
Trustee Norwood?
Aye.
Trustee Tammy Brown?
Aye.
Trustee House? Aye. Trustee Belcher? Motion passed.
Okay, and then we're going to cycle back to item C, which is the presentation and preliminary findings from former Mayor Lightfoot. I have a couple of comments. I don't know if any board members had comments too before I segue to Mayor Lightfoot. I'm going to do both. So this process started and the request started because for, I would say at least up to a year, our administration and more importantly, the residents have not had the opportunity to know what's going on financially with the records in our town. We've also looked at the investigation into what happened in Vegas, and we were not able to get answers. While we are aware that there are FBI subpoenas and a probable FBI investigation, we feel and felt the need for some answers that the community deserves, that this board deserves, and that in order for us to be on solid footing to make a plan. From the pieces that I've seen, it mirrors exactly what we knew, is that we are in a dire financial position. That is something that I think as the numbers come can be extremely frustrating to the residents of this community, and we want to make sure that we are recognizing where we are and using this as a jumping point to where we can get back where we need to be and to thriving. So we want to make sure that everybody's taking in the information. We deserve to know this information. I want to echo the sentiments of Trustee Tammy Brown and saying thank you for all of the hours and all of the hard work. Not too many hours, we put a cap on it. But I want to say thank you. As a preliminary report, but we felt it very urgent that we share the findings because we made promises to do this in a transparent manner with the community. So there still are some stages to go. I'm sure Mayor Lightfoot will talk about some of the hurdles and obstacles, and as a board, after the board has questions, the board will be present to answer what our next steps are. But without further ado, I want to turn over to Mayor Lightfoot.
Can you all hear me just fine, and particularly the folks in the back of the room? All right. First and foremost, I want to just emphasize a couple points that Trustee House and others have made. First of all, thank you to the trustees to Madam Clerk, to Mike McGrath and Bert Odelson. This has been a challenging investigation, to say the least, because we have not received the level of cooperation from the mayor and her team that I would have hoped. Nonetheless, we've had, I think, a breakthrough that's allowed us to be here in front of you today to give you the information that I know the trustees for sure and the members of the public have been seeking for some time. But I do want to emphasize, this is just preliminary. We have more work to do, but as Trustee House said, we believe that it was very important to come before the members of the public so you would have some context for what the current state of your finances are as city government. As has been alluded to, I think there's going to have to be some tough decisions that are made, but you've got to make that with as complete a set of information as possible, and that's what this presentation is intended to do. Our work is ongoing, and we expect to finish with in expedited fashion, but as I said, we wanted to get to you as quickly as possible. A couple of points, just so we're all, I'm not an accountant, and I suspect many of you in the room are not, but we will be covering some accounting terms and wanted to just make sure that everybody had the same basic level of understanding as we go through these slides. We're going to talk about how the Village of Dolton handles its accounting system. We'll talk about in length, in detail, about the preliminary assessment of the financial status. We're going to go over what we've seen as increasing expenditures since 2021, unfunded expenditures, the current cash status, credit card use. Then we'll do a summary, and then we'll entertain questions from the trustees. So let me just jump right into it. Many of you know that the village, in the same manner as other municipalities in the state, accounts for its finances using what's called fund accounting. That means, that's just a fancy word of saying the expenses and the revenues are divided up into specific buckets of dollars, and those funds are what we're going to be talking about. The village maintains three categories of fund: a general governmental fund, the proprietary fund, and a fiduciary fund. All right. Under each category, actually, I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Amanda, who will go into more detail about these different funds. Go ahead, Amanda. Sorry about that.
So within each category,
You have to talk a little
there we go. Okay. So within each category of funds, there are underlying funds that are used to account for resources that are for different purposes. The first category, governmental funds, includes the general fund, which is going to be the focus of our presentation this evening. And the general fund is what's used to account for the day-to-day operations of the village. Additionally, there are what are known as special revenue funds. These are specific funds for specific purposes. This includes the motor fuel tax and TIF money. The final governmental fund is debt service funds, where the village's debt obligations are accounted for, which is primarily the public bond debt. The final two categories of funds, which we will not be covering today, are proprietary funds, which account for transactions that are more business in nature, operations that should be funded by customer payments. That's the water fund, the sewer fund, and the fitness center. And the final are fiduciary funds, which are held for non-governmental parties, and that is the village's pension trust fund.
So let's jump into the specifics. Many of you know that the village's fiscal year runs from May 1 to April 30th. So it's those 12 months, but they spanned 2 years. Certain financial disclosures are mandated under state law that the village reports to the comptroller of the state each fiscal year. Two documents that we're going to talk specifically about are the annual financial report, and you see the citation there, it's a state law, and the audited financial statements. The village has not, and let me repeat that, the village has not complied with these statutory requirements since fiscal year 2021. There's no annual financial report available after 2021, and no audited financial statements after 2021. So what that means is the information that we're providing you has not been thoroughly audited by a CPA, but we do have information coming from an entity that essentially serves as the finance department of the village. Historically, from what we can tell, the village has had small or no full-time financial staff. At various times, even though statutorily there's a provision for a city treasurer, none exists and hasn't for some time. There's a provision for a finance director. There's been intermittent people that have served that role, but that role has been vacant as of May of this year, and before that, the person who held the role started working part-time as of the end of December in 2023. So as you can see, given the lean or no financial staff, there's a lot of dependence upon the John Kasparic accounting firm, which has functionally operated as the village's finance department for some time. What we have examined are monthly financial reports from January of 2021 to May of 2024, produced by the Kasparic firm. And as I mentioned, due to the village's failure to conduct an audited financial statement, we have to caveat the accuracy of the information, but we feel fairly confident based upon lining out not only the monthly reports, but looking at bank statements that match up with the information that's in the financial reports. And we've had the opportunity to talk to some of the folks at the Kasparic firm who are responsible for managing the finances of the village, and that work is ongoing. As of May 30th of this year, the village's general fund was in a net deficit position, meaning that there is insufficient funds in that general fund. As we mentioned, the general fund is used to account for the majority of the village's day-to-day operations, including payroll and vendor payments. The village's special revenue fund and debt service fund, however, are in a positive position, but each of those funds are restricted funds, meaning you cannot borrow from one to give to the other. And that is what's causing, in part, the financial crisis. What's next you can see is a graphic that depicts where we started as of April, where the village started as of April of 22, with positive of $5.6 million in the general fund, and where we are as of May of 2024, which is a negative $3.65 million.
Mayor Lightfoot, if I may,
Yes.
just kind of as a summary now, just quick numbers. So in a 2-year span, we're talking about a $9 million swing or $9 million of deficit over that course of time. Would that be
Yes,
close
sir.
accurate?
Yes, sir.
Yep. All right, turning now to the increasing expenditures of the village. Over the last 3 fiscal years, the average monthly expenditures of the village have increased by nearly 30%. As you can see in the graphic, in fiscal year 2022, on average, the village spent about $1.9 million a month, but in the last fiscal year, that amount had climbed to $2.5 million. These increasing expenditures have not been accompanied by corresponding increases in revenue. Again, as you see in the graph on the blue bars, the revenues have remained relatively the same over that time period, just over $24 million, while expenditures have climbed from $23 million in 2022 to $30 million in 2024. Ultimately, in fiscal years 2023 and 2024, expenditures exceeded revenue. Specifically in 2024, it was over $5 million more in expenditures than revenues. To look further at the increasing expenditures, the table on the screen highlights the two village departments that are the main drivers of this spending increase: the General Administration and Administrative Compensation Department and the Police Department. Turning first to the General Administration Department, line, the increase in expenditures here has grown about approximately 47%. This was around $6.4 million in fiscal year 2022, and it was $9.4 million in fiscal year 2024. There have been increases in general administration spending in nearly every area, but there are a handful that stick out the most. As you can see on the first line, the largest driver of this increase is a more than double change in liability insurance cost. It's gone from $1.2 million in fiscal year 2022 to $3.2 million in fiscal year 2024. Other areas where we see large increases are miscellaneous expenditures, settlements, legal fees, and telephone.
Let me just add regarding the legal fees. These are, everything that we're representing to you tonight are things that have been booked in one of the general ledgers or otherwise. We know that the legal fees that have been booked so far are underestimated because there are a number of legal fees that have yet to be paid. And obviously, with the litigation that's been filed, particularly by vendors who have not been paid, those legal fees will definitely, this is a very conservative estimate of what those fees actually are. Let me drill a little bit down also in what we're seeing so far with the police department. Those expenditures have increased approximately 21% since FY22. Some of that is obviously driven by the union contracts and making sure that there's retro pay and that the police officers are compensated according to the collective bargaining agreement. Within the police department expenditures, categories with large increases include overtime, other miscellaneous expenses, and I will tell you we don't know exactly what that is, but we're working on unpacking that, contractual services, other professional services, and medical insurance. We wanted to highlight for you, particularly given overtime, what we saw as two outliers in officers, Officer Terry Young and Officer William Reed. Both of these individuals in the last 2 years have earned more in overtime than their base compensation. And you can see these numbers here. Officer Terry Young in FY 2023 earned $194,290 total, given the base salary and the overtime. And then in FY 2024, that increased to $227,351, combining the base salary and the overtime. Officer Reed for FY 2023 had a total earnings of $145,450, and in FY 2024, $192,732. We thought it also important for you to know that Acting Chief Lacey has accumulated overtime. It's our understanding that he is not part of the collective bargaining unit and has not been for some time, which under normal circumstances would mean that he is not entitled to overtime. But as you can see here, for FY22, FY23, and FY24, and we're now in fiscal year 2025, through those 4 years, he's accumulated $215,747,000 just in overtime. Now we're going to move, ladies and gentlemen, to unfunded expenditures. And this is really focused on, as we alluded to, we're going to move to unfunded expenditures, and this is really focused on checks that have been approved by the board from warrant lists that have come before the Board of Trustees, but held and not sent to the vendors. Based on the records that we have reviewed, since March of 2023, the village has been unable to pay all of its monthly expenditures with available cash balance. Since that time, nearly every month, a portion of the checks approved and printed have been held by the village due to unavailability of funds. Per records from the John Kasperick firm, as of June 18, 2024, there are 589 checks totaling over $6 million that have been approved, printed, but not transmitted to vendors. And that is a big driver of the deficit in the general fund. This over $6 million in held checks, I want to caution, does not account for additional monies potentially owed by the village to vendors for which checks have not even been printed. These categories, which we are looking into, include, for example, invoices that have been received by village departments, but for one reason or another may not have been entered into the accounting system, which is called My Viewpoint. These invoices could have been entered into the accounting system, but not been approved by department heads or by the village administrator. And this could also include invoices that have not been approved by payment for the Board of Trustees. You're aware that from time to time, the warrant lists are presented. The trustees say, pay this, not pay that. Well, those checks that are on the warrant list roll over from time to time. And it probably makes sense just to explain really briefly. There is not a centralized repository for vendors to put their checks in electronically, or their invoices, I should say, so that it's automatically in the system. It has to be either hand-delivered or sent via email. It goes to the appropriate department head. Then it's up to that department head to approve and enter those invoices into the MyPoint system. And it depends upon the dollar amount of the invoice, who has final approval for those invoices to make it onto the warrant list. But that's the way the process works now. It will not surprise you that one of the recommendations that we will have when we finish our work is that the village invest in an automated system so that nothing falls between the cracks. The vendor will be able to see real time, where is my invoice moving through the system, and you'll know where it sits, either with the department head or otherwise.
All right, we'll turn now to discuss the cash status of the village. So the village has 22 different bank accounts. A majority of those bank accounts are designated for the special revenue funds or bond escrow funds. So the money in those bank accounts is restricted and shouldn't be used for day-to-day operations. I'll also note that these 22 accounts don't include the pension assets. The pension assets are held in separate trust accounts. Most of the village's expenditures each month are paid from one main operating bank account. As of June 30th, 2024, that bank account had a balance of $715,000. As of April 30th, 2021, that account had a balance of almost $1.5 million. So a decrease of over $750,000. In addition to the main operating account, historically, the village has held its excess cash in an account known as Illinois funds. Illinois funds are interest-bearing accounts that are managed by the Illinois Treasurer's Office that allow municipalities to earn interest on their excess cash balance. The balance in the Illinois funds account as of June 30th was only $3,900. As of April 30th, 2021, that balance was over $2 million. So the balance of excess cash has dropped by over $2 million in that time period. The monthly financial reports include a summary of the unrestricted cash balances of the village each month. Within these summaries, the balance reflected already accounts for those held checks that Mayor Lightfoot was just discussing, checks that have been issued but haven't cleared because they haven't been sent yet to vendors. What you can see on the chart is that the unrestricted cash balance of the general fund has dropped from almost $5 million as of April of 2022, and it is now, accounting for all of the checks that have yet to be sent, is now in a deficit position of over $5.5 million as of May of 2024.
We thought it was important to give you a little bit of insight into credit card use by village employees. We do not have complete information yet. It is our hope that we will get further cooperation and be able to have a complete picture of credit cards, but we wanted to share with you what we do know so far. We are aware that over this time period, from 2021 to the present, the village used 6 different credit cards at various points, from January 2021 through May of this year. 4 American Express cards that appear to have been used by various folks within the police department. The statements for these accounts were addressed to Ernest Mobley, Robert Collins, and Louis Lacey.
Mayor, may I interject there for a moment? Because we have, it was former Deputy Chief Mobley is present with us, and an amazing officer, so I'm certain there was no misuse or misconduct on that behalf, so I want to make sure I state that because he has been an exemplary officer.
Yeah, all we know is what we've seen in the paper so far. We have not interviewed any of these folks to get a better understanding of the specifics around credit card use. We have some knowledge of that, but we'll share that as part of the final report. There's 1 American Express card for which statements are addressed to Keith Freeman, the village administrator, and there was a 1 Fifth Third card which statements are addressed to the village. We've been told that that card is no longer in use. We understand from the records we've received from the Kasperick company and interviews that we've conducted that receipts for credit card purchases are rarely provided. Further, we understand that the credit card balance, because it comes due, of course, every month, we all know that, is paid as a matter of course, and it is reflected in the accounting records as miscellaneous police department expenditures. We're looking into what is the reason and rationale for that, but what this means is that these credit card bills that are paid do not appear on warrant lists and are therefore not presented to the board for approval. Again, that will be a recommendation that we make, and the board is obviously aware of this issue, which is in part why they took the action that they took the other day to rein in the credit card spending. We also understand from the Kasperick company that the only time a credit card charge would be reflected on a warrant list is if a receipt is provided, and as I've said, our information is that the receipts are rarely provided. We want to highlight a couple of credit card purchases. You're having the same reaction that we did when we saw this. So in particular, we were very concerned to see the top 3 purchases that were highlighted for you that were booked on January 5th of 2023. That's roughly $40,000, a little more than that, in credit card purchases on Amazon in the same day. And our understanding is that the village does not have an Amazon account. These are somebody using one of the credit cards. and charging these amounts using your tax dollars. We suspect we're going to see, as you can see, expenditures at Target, Walgreens, Best Buy, a number of charges that raise questions in our mind. Are these legitimate purchases using the credit cards? What we've also found in the credit cards, I know that there's been a lot of interest in travel, and we are highlighting here on this slide some of the travel that is reflected in the Village credit cards. Birmingham, Alabama, and Montgomery, Alabama in March of 2023 with 5 known travelers. Washington, D.C. in 2023 with 4 known travelers. Las Vegas, Nevada with 8 known travelers. Jackson, Mississippi in June of 2023 with 3 known travelers. Austin, Texas in July of 2023 with 3 known travelers. Portland, Oregon in July of 2023 with 4 travelers. Central and Southern Illinois in September of 2023. I think you're aware of what happened during that time. 10 hotel rooms booked during that travel. Travel to New York City in October of 2023, 1 traveler. Atlanta, Georgia in November of 2023, 1 traveler on the Village's credit cards. And I caveat that because we will and are continuing to look at, I'll say, cross-pollination between the Village and the township and the credit card use there as well. So let me summarize for you kind of what we presented, what we found so far regarding the finances. The general fund is used to pay the vast majority of the Village's expenses, as you heard. As of May 31st of this year, the fund had a negative balance of $3.65 million. The Village's general fund expenditures have exceeded revenues the past 2 fiscal years, ending April 30th, 2023 and April 30th, 2024. As of June 30th of this year, the cash on hand in unrestricted accounts is insufficient to cover the held checks valuing $6.1 million. We are in the current fiscal year of FY 2025, and the Village has no budget that's been passed this year. The Village's financial records have not been audited since FY 2021, and the Village has not filed the mandated state annual reports since FY 2021. So where are we in terms of next steps? Regarding the financial information, there's a lot more work that we need to do. As I indicated, we've just recently got a lot of information in the door that is reflected for the most part in this presentation, but there are other things that we have asked for, and we're hoping that we're going to get further cooperation from the Kasperick accounting firm. Additional details regarding credit card spending and any receipts that might exist. Detailed accounting records and reconciliations, check registers, which is important. Detailed accounting of inter-fund transfers and balances. What we're seeing, and we need to really look at the detail here, is that there is a transfer from one fund, in some instances there's restricted funds, into another fund, and vice versa. Additional detail, we're looking at what are the financial policies and practices in place, and whether or not those need to be changed, updated, or beefed up in any way. We are continuing to look at what happened in Las Vegas. There are 2 trips, one in May of 2022 and a second in May of 2023. And as I alluded to earlier, the relationship and the intermingling of funds and personnel with Thornton Township is something we're very focused on as well. We defer to the trustees.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank Mayor Lightfoot, her colleagues, as well as our legislative attorneys as well for the time and effort put into that. So again, I'll ask for a round of applause for the work that's been done. I'm going to defer to any of the board members, see if there's questions of the report has been presented. Okay, I'm going to turn over to Trustee Norwood.
That was a lot to digest there.
Yes.
I just want for the residents that, because I know sometimes there are a lot of residents that still don't understand. For us trustees, our job is to oversee the finances. For the last 3 years, I know it looks as though there's been a lot of fighting, but we've been fighting for transparency so that things like this won't happen. We were locked out of my viewpoint maybe about a year or two ago. Once we did start sharing the receipts and the information with the residents, they stopped that, right? Police overtime. In the very beginning, we stated, hey, I wasn't even totally opposed to police detail of some sort, but what I stated was for how long and how many, right? That's important. And it was important because now they never gave us this information, and now we see that we're spending millions of dollars in overtime, and the only one really protected in Dolton is her, and it's not fair. Vendors. You all have heard me say for the last few years, bring RFPs in front of the board, bring RFPs in front of the board. It's extremely important that we have a process put in place so that as trustees, we can make the right decisions regarding vendors. We want these services to be provided to the residents. I want you all to know that we're never against you all receiving services, but we don't want to pay more. We don't want people receiving kickbacks and charging us way more for the services that the residents deserve. Hopefully, moving forward, we can get the mayor to work with us and provide some of this information. That's the hopes. But in the meantime, we'll continue to show up. We're going to continue to work with the residents. We're going to continue to get you the information, right? And Dolton, let's just hang in there. We're almost there. We're doing all the necessary steps in terms of a board, because we still want to try to work with this administration to the end. Our goal is still to attempt, no matter what, for the residents. So I just want you all to know that we want to work together. That's the goal. We are put here for checks and balances, and hopefully they can start bringing things in front of us. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. If you're okay, I'm gonna get Bert and Lori, and then I'm gonna let you and Lori be here for your comments too. Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. Trustee Belcher.
Yeah, I know it took everything in my soul to sit here and stomach this report. As we've been saying, and I'm gonna refer back to Trustee Norwood, anybody that has watched the meetings, I said the checks that's sitting on the desk that ain't been cashed. Nobody has to come to a board meeting and tell a lie about anything. It's common sense. It's simple multiplication. When you have people emailing you every day about their invoices and payments. This goes as far back of June 9, 2022. It's sad. It's sickening. People came last month when we got our tax bills in an uproar about the tax. Can y'all imagine when we do take initiative to even start straightening this out, how our tax bill is going to look? That $6.8 million didn't never come. And it was spent before deposited. It's simple math. $6.1 million in checks sitting somewhere. $40,000 at Amazon. What a slap in the face to everybody that reside in 60419 zip code. The meeting and Mayor Lightfoot, I'm so grateful for this information that you provided, because it takes somebody else to come in to show that we've been trying to stop this, and we've been doing minimal damage. So could you have imagined if we just sat up there and approved everything that was going on? Because she gonna ride off in her BMW and we'll still be here stuck. We have been financially raped. And when people rape people, they get anything they deserve. I'm just going to say what I've been saying for months and months and months. The bag been empty in 2022. The bag, it was never anything in the bag. And you still continue to say, they're lying, they're lying, they're lying. Here is proof for everyone to see, and even the ones who doubt us. If you don't see through this, it's nothing I can say to you. Even last week, sitting with Mayor Lightfoot, it's a punch in the gut. As the lady said from out of town, you've been hoodwinked, you've been bamboozled. Led astray. Led astray. All of that. And for a person to sit there and constantly lie, lie, lie. Every board meeting, I don't say much because I just can't see how the girl tell all them lies like that. It's unbelievable for a person to say that and for people to believe. So we thank God for Mayor Lightfoot's being here today, her presentation. Now, if this doesn't open up the eyes to these residents and let us know what as we say, the black jobs mean black vote. Everybody tell somebody. February of 2025, clean house. Clean house. You got to. This is just unbelievable. I mean, to even sit here, even though I said last week, it's a stomach ache. I've been punched all over tonight. It's ridiculous to see how our tax dollars have been recklessly spent by this young lady. So definitely give us time. Residents, we're asking you to work with us. We're doing our very, very best. So definitely hang in there with us. And thank you all again for coming out tonight.
Okay, I'm going to also ask Attorney Olderson to comment on some of the work that he's been doing.
So my takeaways from tonight and from what we have seen over the last 3 years that we have been legislative counsel for these trustees. Number one, the hiring of Mayor Lightfoot was not only smart, but incredibly necessary, as you've seen tonight. Her work is extraordinary and will continue to produce information for this board and for the public, which you need to know and the board needs to know in order to try to right the ship. Without her and her skill and her staff, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight with this information for you. There is a lot of work to do. More financial discovery from Mayor Lightfoot, more layoffs and readjustment of personnel, leadership change at the police department, stopping of harassment of employees, and for us, the lawyers, trying to work with the 40-plus lawsuits that have been filed against this village in the last 3 years. Our firm has not been paid for 3 years. Why? Because the mayor won't sign the checks in hopes of us leaving. She has a motion to fire us on every agenda and usually rails against us on every agenda. But I can tell you this, we're not leaving, and we're staying with Dolton. I just ask as a human being, not as a lawyer, not as a politician, that the people of the Village of Dolton stick with this Board of Trustees because they're heroic in and of themselves. And I don't say that because there's an election coming. You'll get plenty of information on that. But I say that because we have hard months ahead. Knowing these finances, knowing what we just went through to get some insurance for the village, which was extraordinarily difficult and incredibly costly, we have a lot of work to do to right the ship, a lot. So I want to thank Mayor Lightfoot, who I've known for many years and admired for many years, and her staff. And I certainly want to thank the Mayor Pro Tem and the trustees and your wonderful clerk who works under difficult conditions. And who did get into the Village Hall today, even though the mayor changed the locks again for the third time to lock everybody out of the Village Hall, including the employees and the trustees that she didn't want in there. So we continue, every day there's something new. So I just want to thank you, Jason House, and the board, and Mayor Lightfoot. Thank you.
I want to highlight one comment made by Attorney Olson, Attorney McGrath. 3 years with no pay. 3 years without pay. Not many, if any, other attorney would take on that walk with the board, with the residents of this community. And it seemed that every turn as things were getting worse, Bert got more pissed. So I'll just jab at him and say, "You heard what she say about you?" But in all candidly speaking, there is, when we talk about partnerships and what it takes for us to try to get to an end, and I'm saying this because, as you see, we have a big hole. So we want to make sure that the partnerships continue because that's what's going to get us out of this hole as well. And I want to say thank you for the service that you guys have provided. Okay, I want to turn over to Mayor Lightfoot for kind of her final comments. As the board has asked questions, we're going to pause to give them a moment to exit. The board is here to answer questions, but I'm also serious about this hourly rate that I don't want to make sure we spend frivolously.
It's the friends and family discount, I can assure you.
But we want to make sure all comments are heard and rightfully so. The board is here, and we'll make some comments on what our next steps and our plan is, and we're here to hear from the residents after that. But Mayor Lightfoot, please.
I just want to share a couple of final comments with you all. I know how I felt when I started seeing these numbers, so I can imagine how all of you are feeling after all this time being in the dark. And I just want to let you know this isn't just a job. This isn't just some task. We feel this. And so we have worked very, very diligently, very hard under difficult circumstances to get as much information as we could to share with you. You may hear a number of things in the coming days. But what I can assure you is the information that we have shared, that we're putting our names on, is drawn directly from the financial records of this village. We wouldn't be here sharing this information, advising the trustees and talking with legislative council if we didn't have confidence in the numbers. There are a number of other things we know, but we aren't ready yet. We got to verify them 20 ways from Sunday. But this, if you hear this is fake news, it's not real, no. This is real. The last thing I'll say is, we figured that folks would probably want to take a little time to study these numbers in a little more detail. We have 100 copies of this deck that we will leave, paper copies. So after the meeting is over, you can feel free to come get them, first come, first serve. Don't worry, media, we've already shared the electronic copies with you all, so you should have that. But again, thank you for showing up, for yourselves and for your families and for your community.
I'm going to pause briefly to give Mayor Lightfoot and our attorneys a moment to exit, and then we're going to make some final comments from the board in terms of next steps, and then we will open for citizens' address.
Before they get back to addressing the citizens, we already knew that the village of Dolton was in dire strain. We already knew that their financial situation was a $6 million, $7 million deficit. It was just proven that because they did not have access to, the bank account information and the credit card information. So we already knew that was happening. Hopefully he will address, the next steps forward. I don't know if Tangenique Miller was on that firing list. It seems pretty odd to me. You have a financial director, quote unquote. Hopefully she has a CPA license, right? You have a financial director, and that's supposed to be keeping intact of the finances, and then you're contracting your accounting, day-to-day accounting stuff out. And I think they pay the accounting firm like $50,000 to $60,000 a month. I think it's really egregious. Also, I wanted to know, and I don't know why they didn't ask this question, if there is a law or ordinance where they will have to do an annual report and an audited report every 2 years and they haven't done one, what is the village fine because of this? Does the state come in and take over? Well, what happens since they have not done this report in the last 3 to 4 years? So they didn't answer that question. I wish they will address that, or maybe one of the residents will address that. It's really, Lexi, you're right. It's really heartbreaking to see that. Then, we knew that, and this is why the board did not approve the overtime pay for the police department, because we knew that the police department was collecting over $1 million in overtime pay. And prior to Tiffany coming in, prior to her security detail, their overtime pay was like $700,000. Now you got this $1.9 million of overtime pay yearly, which is really egregious. And it seems like it would be better for them to hire more people than collecting overtime pay. Those two individuals that they said made, Terry Young, he made $227,000. $227,000 in 1 year. And then William Young, or William, whoever William is, I didn't write his first name down, but or his last name down, he made $199,000. This is police officers. How many hours are you working? I mean, it's like, some of the stuff doesn't make sense. And what are you buying from Amazon that's $33,000? What are you buying from all in 1 month? You spent about $40,000 at Amazon. What are you buying? What do you buy from Amazon that much? Um, Sheriff of YouTube, he gonna get charged by the feds for falsifying their hours to the village. It will be a federal crime to steal from the residents. I think after they start auditing some of like the overtime pay, and they called it ghost payroll because they said a lot of people in the village were ghost payrolling. And Tiffany claimed that when she got into office, she stopped all this ghost payrolling. Ghost payrolling is basically saying you worked some hours and you didn't. You're just stealing company time. But the company is the city. So yeah, this is I just can't believe it. I mean, I knew it was there, but now you see, hard evidence and hard facts that she just ran through the village money like it was nothing. Like, what did you actually spend the money on? They probably need to hire actually a forensic accounting to see, or maybe the FBI would do that, to see, okay, what did they actually spend the money on? And I'm hearing Tiffany, she, instead of like, taking her money out as a payroll check, most of her money she puts in her 401k. I think you only could put up to 20%. Her age, I think, is the max is 20%. But she's putting most of her money away up into her 401k. And I'm assuming that the village probably has a matching if you, put your 401k. So no telling how much she has in that. I don't know if she is arrested. I don't know if they are able to touch that 401k. I think it's not, you're not able to take away a person's 401k, even if they did a crime. Now, if she decided to withdraw from that 401k, of course, the feds will have that money. But if it's sitting in the 401k, I don't think nobody could touch it besides her. So it would be interesting to see how they're going to deal with this problem. You're at $6 million deficit. I'm glad that they got insurance because I mentioned before when they were talking about these different lawsuits, and we found out that they had a freeze on their bank account. And I was thinking, well, maybe they don't have insurance. So now they do have liability insurance. But we saw that the liability insurance is costing them $2 million a year, only because Tiffany and Keith Freeman, they do stuff that they're not supposed to be doing. So employees and different people are suing them. That's why it is so important to follow the procedure of a township or any kind of company. You're issuing out contracts and you don't have the legal authority to do so. So people are suing you because you didn't pay them. They did the work and they supposed to be paid, but you didn't do it per the instructions or per the guidelines of the township. So it's a big mess. I see we have Mechanic Taft. That town is probably going to go into receivership. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Receivership. It has happened in other states. State troopers came in and took over everything and kicked out the mayor. I think if they probably will go into receivership if they can't get a handle on things. If it's worse off than what we're seeing now and they can't get a handle on things, more likely they would go under receivership. I believe Detroit, Michigan, once Kwame got out of office, I believe we filed for bankruptcy. Not for sure receivership. But there was another fund The receivership was over that fund, the downtown strip, the water area, the waterfront, they call it the waterfront. They end up going into a conservatorship, and those people that was under the conservatorship was stealing the money. So it was corruption on both ends. And matter of fact, I think they end up charging one of the guys. I don't know if he was actually charged, but he was indicted because of the money that they were stealing. But yeah, plenty of towns have been under receivership because they can't dig themselves out of the hole. It looks like they're going back into session or getting the public's comments so we could listen.
Works. Can we hear me clap 3 times? All right, thank you. I love the camaraderie and spirit. We want to reconvene our meeting so that way we can talk about next steps, allow for feedback with the community, and then we can adjourn this meeting. I will say, I want to highlight one step that we've been able to accomplish in the recent weeks, is our deputy clerk. In recent weeks, because of some of the diligence of the board, diligence of the clerk's office, with the assistance of our attorneys, we're pleased to announce Deputy Clerk Eris Montgomery is back in the village of Dolton, and I'll ask that she come forward. Where's Deputy Clerk Montgomery? Is she here? I did tell her she was coming. Okay, when she arrives, we'll ask her to step up front and take the rightful seat along with our board members. So we want to make that announcement. Number 2, President Cleo Jones had some announcements he wanted to make to the community of progress that is going on, so I'll ask that you join.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for coming out to the Dolton Park District. It was a very orderly meeting. I appreciate you guys. You didn't have to go through no metal detectors. Come here to the park. Yes. So let me tell you guys a little progress that's going on. First of all, I'd like to thank the Mayor Pro Temp. I'd like to thank the village trustees for all the hard, diligent work they have done. I also like to thank our attorney, Michelle Broughton-Fountain is here. We have our Board of Commissioners, Vice President Gail Towers, is she still here? We have Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Rochelle, and Commissioner Wells, if they both are still here. So the progress that has been made was we've been working very, very hard to improve our parks throughout the Dolton community. And we've been getting a whole lot of obstructions, getting that done by getting the proper permits put in place to get this done by the village of Dolton. So we finally, after many, many years, after several years, well, not several years, but after years of trying to proceed to get permits to get a project started, a reconstruction project started at Blackstone Park, located at 146 in Blackstone. We finally got the permits put in place. Finally. Once again, I thank the trustees for their hard, diligent work on making this happen for us. Also, clerks, we thank you guys as well for you guys have prior to signing off on this to get this done. We really appreciate you guys. So, without further ado, beginning August 1st, which is Monday, Blackstone Park is going under construction. And with that construction, Blackstone Park is going to get a complete renovation. Things like including a walking path, a gazebo, a light-size game table, picnic shelter, additional parking, a fitness area, and a brand-new playground that's coming there. This is some of the things that, on behalf of our trustees, help us to get done. So we appreciate, on behalf of the Dolton Park District, we appreciate you, the community, who stood up and helped fight the bully to ensure that this is our community, this is our town, and these are the things that we need to get done. You got to understand something. It's not about one person. It's not about one person. It's about all of us. Why will we have to take our kids to Orland Park, Tinley Park to play in their playgrounds? when we have our own playgrounds. We're going to continue to build. We're going to continue to build this partnership, and we're going to continue to work with our trustees. We thank them for all they have done, and we appreciate you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, President Jones. So just some comments as we talk about this, and it's we have become or maybe remained a town divided over these years. So I want to make sure that we're focusing on what happened only by way of knowing what not to do to repeat our past failures, what we need to do to overcome or put safeguards in places and strengthen policies and procedures. In some cases, in many cases, we've had the policies and procedures on the books, and they're just not being followed. But through persistence, and I'm going to say persistence not only of this board, but many Dolton residents. So I want to ask that you give yourselves a round of applause, because without the many people that come in week after meeting after meeting, stating what's going on and saying, as a resident of this community, I'm not happy. And we've been termed in many ways as kind of a ish show, and some other expletives that are not favorable. That's not what we want for our community. I do have to say that in any town, when the numbers look that bad, there should be some noise. There should be some outrage. There should be some frustration. To that end, we want to start now working towards resolve, and that's what this meeting is about, is getting to the bottom of what's happening so we can start having our plans moving forward, and we can bring back order to Dolton and order to our finances. With that said, some of the things that we have implemented, we've already implemented credit card freezes, and I think the biggest component of us, and us being the board, us being the residents, us being this community, us being the media, exposing is that it's made anybody leery of taking more missteps in the future. It's gotten the administration and many people in it to give us the cooperation that we've deserved for many, many years. So while I'm frustrated at what it took for us to get here, I'm pleased that we can start to see the end of the road, and you can see things like the Park District getting their permits. We can see that we have a deputy clerk back. We can see business licenses coming back to this community. This board has remained diligent, this community has remained diligent, and we will continue this until we get back to where we deserve. There will be a hiring freeze. The board has already made the announcement that we are going into a hiring freeze that will be voted formally at our next board meeting, and as we see it's necessary. I don't want to scare employees by saying that there are layoffs needed, but there are tough decisions that have to come when this budget, in this upcoming budget, that we are overdue on approving. So the next big step for us is we want everybody to watch out for the budget process, because it will be coming very quickly. We will make sure it's done transparently and have open discussions, and we will have it with the department managers, so that way we can identify what the cuts mean in terms of service. We will implement a travel policy, which is overdue and much needed. And sometimes you think that things are common sense, and you're like, why should we have to have a policy for it? But so you have to do what you have to do at many moments. And I think it's important that we note when we have $6.1 million of checks and vendors that are out there, we want all vendors to know that we will be contacting them. And we fully intend on taking care of that debt. And we will be working with them to make sure they are made whole, because they do not deserve to be in this process as well. So with all those things being said, that kind of gives a snippet or overview. We could talk more through it at tea with the trustees this Saturday, 9:30, Dolton Park District. So having said that, I'll see if any colleagues on the board have any comments, and if not, we're going to open for public comments. Okay. Hearing none, we're going to open for public comments. We'll ask 3 minutes. After 3 minutes comes, I will do a wave, letting you know that you've hit the 3-minute mark, and we will ask that we conclude at that moment.
Greetings, everyone. In view of tonight's report, I think one thing is apparent. Since Thornton Township has been used to launder money, commingle funds, and things of that nature, I think it's a long time that we start going to their meetings also and that we start working together, trustees to trustees, citizen to citizen. We have to find a way to rid our village of that malignant, malevolent administration that we now live in. So the only way I can see to do that, we have to fight them from every angle. Because right now, they go from one entity to the other, doing this, doing that, and even with the great work done by Mayor Lightfoot, they still haven't been able to track down everything that they're doing. So in order for us to thrive, we are the canaries in the coal mine right now. We need to make that apparent to everyone in this south suburban region. It happened to us. She's using you all, he's using that entity to wash the money. It's pretty obvious. And we got to find a way to stop that. And I do have a question. Do any of these things, if proven, does any of this stuff rise to the level of criminal? I don't know who might know that, but there's got to be some. If they can get a guy for stealing $10,000 out of a bank or something, embezzling, this is embezzling on a grand scale. That's pretty much all I have to say right now.
Okay. So I'll give a quick response. We feel that it does rise to the level of criminal. All information received in our report and further reports will be turned over to all authorities relevant to make a final determination.
I'm so accustomed to public comments. So this is to every resident of the village of Dolton that is here and not here. This is to let you know, this is not fake news. This is real. And to all the residents that seem to think that this is not real, you need to get a copy of this. To all the residents that think, oh, she's doing a great job and she's giving this party and we're going to get hot dogs and they're giving the kids Easter baskets and televisions and CD players and laptops. That's our money. It ain't her money, it's our money. And free 99 ain't always good. So I employ every resident that seems to want to go to every event that she does, stop going. Stop going. Don't support nothing that she's giving. What you need to do is support these individuals up here that's been working for us. And to all the individuals, because it's election time, to all the individuals that want to throw their hat in the ring, or I'm going to run for trustee, or I'm going to run for village clerk. No, these are the individuals that have been working for us. So if you're going to do something, put your money, your support, your time, get out and knock on doors, make telephone calls for Clerk Key, for Jason House as mayor, for Brittany Norwood to retain her seat as trustee, for Kiana Belcher, who always have the receipts, to continue her job as our village trustee. That's what the Village of Dolton residents need to do. This is real. It ain't fake, and they ain't fake either.
Greetings, residents. Former trustee Edward Steve. To the media, to the cameras, to the YouTubers, we've been known for these chaotic board meetings over the last few months. So they think that's all Dolton is. Look how smooth this meeting was today. Look how calm, professional. That's not what Dolton is. This is what Dolton is. So when y'all see this news media and when y'all see how smooth this meeting went, know that this is Dolton. The other meetings is not Dolton. This is Dolton. I want to say also, it's for years, they've been saying every meeting, they don't want to pay these people. Pay the people, pay the people. How come Stan Brown ain't here today? He been saying, pay the people, pay the people. And we've been saying, no, they don't have the money. So now it's vindication when you sit there and get berated over and over again, and people come to you and say, how come you don't pay the people? Why are you holding up the vendors? This shows you that she's been lying the whole damn time. the whole damn time. So I thank y'all. I thank you, trustees, and Clean House 2025.
Good evening, everyone. I've got two questions and a comment. We love you guys. This is our future, but don't forget Ed Steve. My question number one is, how many people in this audience are not registered to vote? How many people in this audience know someone who is not registered to vote? Well, it's obvious they're out here. We're all registered, and I guarantee you we don't all vote. We need to change that. We have people who have signed up, and they're now deputy registers. If you know someone, reach out to the trustees, reach out to us. We will make sure that's done. But stop sitting at home. You go to the clubs, you go to church, you go to the store, you go wherever you want to go in the winter. Go to the polls.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the trustees and everyone here. I prepared a speech. I'm a little nervous, but I wanted to say my piece today. So I want to start by expressing my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you. And as a resident of Dolton, I've been a resident of Dolton for the past 3 years. I live here with my husband and my 5 children. Many of you know me, some of you don't. But I've been here for, like I said, for 3 years, and I'm also a new business owner here. So I felt truly welcomed by this community, and that's the thanks to the incredible support I received from all of you, and also from the trustees and clerk, you as well. So I can't express enough how much that your help has meant to me, especially when I was facing my own personal challenges. You were there when I needed someone to turn to, and that support made all of the difference to me. So I'm so thankful to each and every one of you for standing by me, particularly when others, including Mayor Tiffany Henyard, was not available to offer me assistance. So living and working in Dolton has been an eye-opening experience for me. While there's been so much potential and so many wonderful people in this town, I've also seen the challenges that we face. And I hope to have worked closely with Mayor Henyard, but someone from my own generation, to uplift and empower women like myself in our community. And it's heartbreaking to say that instead, I've been confronted with troubling rumors, well, not rumors anymore, facts, of corruption and dishonesty. It's disheartening to hear the truth and about the expenditures and scams associated with Tiffany Mayor Henyard's tenure here as mayor. And it's not the reality I wish to find in the town that I've come to care about. So I want to thank you and the trustees, all of you have supported me. I'm honored to be a part of this community, and I look forward to working together with all of you to make Dolton a better place for everyone. Thank you.
And I'm proud to say she's my neighbor.
Good evening, everyone. Right now, I am in limbo as far as my living situation, and I was kind of undecided as to whether I wanted to reside in Dolton. But now that all of this information has come out, and I see how much the trustees love the residents and this village, I think this is going to be my home. So, I'm going to be a Doltoner. I want to be a Doltoner. That's all I want to say, and I love you guys. You know I love you guys. Thank you.
Good evening, residents. My name is Cassandra Jordan. I've been a resident here in Dolton for 16 years. And when I look at the situation and everything that's going on, I can just honestly say I'm just so disgusted with what is going on in this village. And I want to encourage the voters, because I've come to the point that I don't just vote because you're just black. We have to start doing our due diligence and start researching the people that we actually cast our votes for. We can no longer just take handouts and because you're my favorite or because I like you. We have to literally start doing our research. And for those of you that voted for Tiffany, I'm just going to honestly say it. You might not like me. You just didn't do your research. I mean, you can honestly look at this chick and see that there was an issue and that there was a problem. I mean, when you do your research, you see, I mean, if you got a person with a criminal background, who in their right mind would have put her in position? So I say to you all, do your due diligence and just stop voting for people because they're black. We have to do our research. And if a lot of you all had done your research, a lot of this stuff would have been avoided. That's all I'm going to have to say.
You know that wasn't a popular opinion.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Brewer, and you know, I moved here in September 2019, and I thought, no, it was a nice village at the time I moved here. It's really ironic with all the stuff that's happening, and I just bought my house. It was like I couldn't just sell it and move somewhere else. So I am so very glad that we are getting to the point where we're getting this taken care of, because it would be a shame for me, somebody who just moved into the village, to have to move out because of things that are happening. And what I'm also asking for is transparency. When I first moved here, I can go on the website, I can see what all the trustees were doing, and it was easy. Now it's like it's hard because I have to follow your website and some other places, and sometimes some of the activities that you put on, we don't even know about because they're not placed anywhere for us to see. So I'm looking forward to having the website be more transparent, having the trustees' information, and also when we do public comment, we don't get, you know, we used to be able to get some feedback, you know, so those things, please bring them back. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody. We're going to be adjourning, so I think Trustee Belcher, have a motion to adjourn. I hear the motion and a second. Clerk Key, please roll call.
Trustee Norwood? Aye. Trustee Tammy Brown? Aye. Trustee House? Aye. Trustee Belcher?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 8:13 p.m.
I want to thank everybody. Hope to see you soon. It's great to see you.
Okay, so meeting is adjourned. I think they have their work cut out for them. Some of the residents, they didn't ask the questions. You know, I would have drilled in. Just because you got Mayor Lightfoot charging you guys $400 an hour, you don't want them to stop at what they're doing. I would stay, if I was a resident of Dolton, Illinois, I would stay on their head, on the trustee's head. Okay, what's the next step? What's the plan of action? We know we're going to do cuts. Are we going to get monthly meetings to see when are we going to be out? What is your projected timeline that we will be out of this deficit? What other assets are you planning to sell? Because they put on that one asset, the fitness center, and I guess it's been tabled, and I'm assuming they kind of tabled, or not tabled, they're asking the department heads whether or not if they could lay off staff, but it seems like they're going to have to lay off staff. How are you going to get ahead? Tiffany needs to kind of deplete her detail. You running around town with this security detail 24/7. We can't afford it, Mayor. And then you're working as a part-time mayor. but you have full-time security detail, that co-mingling the funds, you're working full-time at Thornton Township. Therefore, Thornton Township should supply your own security detail through Thornton Township, or we need to be billing Thornton Township for the police department if they are following you everywhere while you're working as the supervisor at Thornton Township. So things like that I would like to, I wish the residents would have asked these type of questions. The one guy who's always there, the older guy, he kind of got into it with some of the details, but like, okay, what happened? Is this something that they could criminally charge her for? And more likely, yes. But are you providing this information once you come up with your final findings, or as you come up with these findings, are you providing this to the FBI? But nobody asked this. And then that one lady, they kind of clapped for her. She was right. Hey, we shouldn't be voting off of identity politics. We should be voting off what is your record, what are the policies, what's your plans for the village of Dolton? You know, if you have a criminal record, if you don't know how to articulate your sentences correctly, maybe we don't need to vote for you. Maybe Tiffany would have been just a trustee and stayed just a trustee. She reached her level of playing field. Mayorship, no, because she has bad mismanagement skills. She has bad leadership skills. She has poor business acumen. So we shouldn't have even got behind her and supported her for mayorship for the village of Dolton. So I don't know. I guess they was trying to say, we'll guide her, give her some guidance, and she didn't want to take guidance and just went off the rails. But like I said, I think the village of Dolton, hopefully they don't just sit back and say, oh, they got it under control now, because they don't. Because this could get pretty bad if they don't get Tiffany out of office. If Tiffany ends having access to bank accounts and all this stuff, it still could get even worse, And now that she used up the township or the village of Dolton money, of course, now she's going to be trying to use up the township's money. I don't know if the township she don't have a hold on the township as she did as the village of Dolton, but I could see her trying to get away from or get away with spending some of their money. Okay. So anyway, you guys, I really appreciate every single last one of you. Let me get to some of your chats. All Eyes on Me says, I think she cut them out. She's always said they thought they could control me. And that's probably true. I would clean house and vote all of them out. Yeah, I mentioned that a long time ago. As far as cleaning house, I'm not for sure. I think Jason House, those 4 trustees, I think they had the right deal in mind. But if you're Stonewall, when you have administration, which it was under Tiffany Thumb, they were kind of being stonewalled. They locked them out the system, so they really had their hands tied in order to do their job. They wasn't able to. And then they had Keith Freeman. Keith Freeman, he knew about a lot of the technology, and he was able to tap into people's emails, lock people out, things like that, change the website, very egregious stuff. And that's partly reason why they're in this deficit, in this hole, is partly because of Keith Freeman. Tanjanique Miller, I don't know if they're going to fire her. They pay her $90,000 or $100,000 a year. And she's supposed to be the finance director. And you see the finances is in dire strain. Richard, they made her, she was a boo, peep, and she spent the sheep. Right. What's normal? Non-compliant servants minus prison or equals prison? I guess. Non-compliant servants minus prison. That makes sense. Yeah. Queenie says they had a surplus, but now they're in a deficit. Yep. Richard, you're right. She's like a gang mafia member. You know, she runs mafia style. Tiffany can't stand on her two toes or on her own. Because she's not smart enough to do that. And I'm not trying to knock the girl, but the finances, like reading the ledger and doing bank reconciliation, I don't think she knows as much as she says she knows. I think she just likes spending money and, oh, we got it, we could spend it. And she's not using common sense. So even last meeting, you see she wasn't with that rah-rah shishkin bar. She got back with the people, but the way she got back was really stupid. It wasn't an intelligent get back. It was like, oh, you're lying. You always come with the fake news. You doing stuff for clickbait. You should follow me because I had the vision and we're in a deficit. Your vision leads to bankruptcy. So what are you talking about? So she's really, I doubt she says she has a business degree, but I really doubt that. Simpleton 86, do you live nearby or in the village? I don't know if you're talking about me. I live in Michigan, but I'm originally from Chicago, and I do have a couple of family members that lives in the village of Dolton. I never told anybody that because I don't want you in my damn business, okay? But I do have people that lives in the village of Dolton, and my dad's side of the family, we're all from Chicago. We live in, my immediate family lives in Chicago. But yeah, I could call on the phone, and matter of fact, one of my cousins that I just met actually knows Tiffany. He knows Tiffany. He's a little bit older than her though. Anyway, Richard says, great journalism. Thank you for the awesome, amazing, true story. Thank you for tuning in. Rick Chicago says, I live here in Chicago for 30 years and lived and worked in Dolton for 2 years. I never seen anything like this. What in the hell did she do with $8 million in just a couple of years? She traveled. She pad people pocket. This is why Tiffany will end up in federal prison, because most of those contracts, I believe the reason why she would pay that $561,000 check, remember a couple of years ago, to pave a parking lot or pave a driveway or whatever, or a block or whatever, a portion of her mama's driveway. She paid $561,000 for this. They are padding her pocket. This is why she's getting into deals that don't make sense. Because if somebody quoted me $560,000, you're not just going to go with the first quote. You're going to say, okay, let me get 2 other quotes. That's just common sense. If you're a homeowner, everybody knows that. I'm not going with the first guy. Maybe I go with the second or third guy. And maybe I'm not going to go with the lowest quote. I'll go with the in-between quote because, the highest you probably get the same type of service and the quality may not be up to par. But the lowest, you probably get subpar service. So you usually go in the middle. But normally people get 3 to 4 quotes when they're bidding something out. They don't go with the first initial quote. That's just common sense. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Tiffany Henyard. I think, like I said, I think she was getting kickbacks on some of these contracts, like that tree trimming. You paying $500,000 for tree trimming a year. How many trees in the village of Dolton? Then they double trimming the trees. Remember what they said in the last meeting, in July's meeting? They getting double billed for the same tree. Or they come in to trim the trees. Then next thing you know, the next month they billing for uprooting the tree. And then they drive by and the tree is still there. So she's absolutely getting kickbacks on some of the things that she's contracting these contractors to do. And that's federal time. That kickbacks is totally federal time. It is a law, and I'm sure it's a state law. So, and they have to follow that state law. Anything above a certain amount, you gotta bid out. It's government work. So you have to bid out the service before you say, okay, here's the job. It's a requirement by law that you gotta bid out certain things if it's going to go over a certain threshold. And she didn't do that. So I'm pretty sure the FBI is going to get her for that. She'll probably get maybe about 25 years on the things she did. I'm just assuming, because that's what they gave Kwame. They gave him about 25 years. If we look at the Senator Bob Menendez, remember the senator, I think he's in Jersey or somewhere. He was found guilty. He hasn't been sentenced yet, but he'll probably do about 20 years. Because he was receiving not necessarily kickbacks, but he was receiving cash gifts from foreign dignitaries. Lexi, you're right. Chawanne did report. I did report on a lot of stuff of this. We didn't really learn nothing new. We just seen it in the writing. Yeah, a lot of these things we reported on this channel a long time ago. Someone spent over $7,000 at Wayfair. It's furniture. Wayfair. I have a professional account on Wayfair. They spent it on furniture. That's what you buy from Wayfair. It's a furniture store. She only works with crooked businesses. Yeah, that's what she does. She works with crooked businesses. All Eyes on Me says she conveniently went to a non-accredited college that is now closed down. So yeah, nobody could look her up. She conveniently went to a college. She named that college. Oh, they closed down. Put that name on there so nobody could fact check her. And I think you have to be a news media or immediately hiring Tiffany to receive her diploma to make sure she went there. Because if you're not news media, they won't give you that information. Or you're not immediately hiring her. So you're not able to look it up. The Warrior says kickbacks. Remember the $500,000 check Tiffany Cash. That's the one. It was the $561,000 check. This woman wrote a $561,000 check. She didn't even go to the payroll or the accounting department saying, "Cut me this check," and she signed it herself. Bet the $40,000 at the Amazon was for the ice skating rink. Oh, that's a good point to make, because they did say they spent a lot of money on skates, and the skates were really expensive. So that's probably something to look into. Muata saying, watching from Little Rock, Arkansas. Thank you for tuning in. Michael Stephen, Tiffany money laundering just like fake apostolic apostle David E. Taylor. She collecting her offering, paying. Tiffany gonna need an offering. She gonna need a GoFundMe. to put on her books. I wonder if the man that she stole, he gonna stick beside her. That's my woman. I'm gonna stick beside her. I wonder what's the meeting going to be like now. It's gonna be, Tiffany's gonna deny it, of course. Tiffany would deny it until the end. Then she gonna cry on the stand. Remember they gave her, she had to appear before the court because of her nonprofit organization, and she was bawling like a little baby because she knew she was wrong. It's a wrap. Tiffany jig is up. I hope Tiffany probably gonna leave town if she don't get, well, she didn't put out there that she's running for re-election either. You guys notice that? In the last meeting, she didn't say anything about re-election. She hasn't did her campaign. I think she's still running for Thornton Township supervisor though, but I don't know about the mayor. The reasons why she was holding back the books, exactly. Not turning in the proper financials since 2021 to the state is beyond crazy. Yeah, I think they might get fined for that. I think it's a fine that they might have to pay since they're turning it in late. Maybe they could send in, a notification to the state saying, hey, we're working on it. Mike Corey says the trustees are getting off way too easy. Why didn't they make these moves months ago? They are weak and really not up to the job they are supposed to do. Honestly, they all need to be replaced. I think they were trying to use the court to see if the court will actually grant them some relief. And even with the court decision saying, hey, you need to turn over the credit cards or the financial statements, Tiffany still was stonewalling them. I think only reason why Tiffany and what's her name? Lightfoot already said they had a hard time even getting any information out of Tiffany. They were saying they hope Tiffany would cooperate with them. But no, only reason why she partly cooperated with them is probably because the FBI and Keith Freeman probably had a lot of that information. Keith Freeman, he doesn't want to go to jail. So he probably gave them a whole bunch of information. And that's probably how they end up getting this report together, because of Keith Freeman. Some of the employees probably was behind Tiffany's back, was sneaking the information to Mayor Lightfoot or Lori Lightfoot. I could only speculate, but I will assume they probably scared. You don't want to go to jail because of Tiffany. Okay, she gave me this job, but I'm not going to go to jail for her. I have children and all that stuff. So they probably were sneaking behind her back to give Lori Lightfoot the information. Is it the trustees' fault that Tiffany went rogue for about 2.5 years? I'm not for sure if I will totally blame them on Tiffany's behavior. I think I don't know. I don't know how you get this far, because Tiffany's been acting up since 3 months after she got into office. I don't know how you rein that in. I'm just trying to recall how Kwame Kilpatrick, reason why Kwame Kilpatrick went awry, his whole deals went awry. Kwame Kilpatrick actually was a great businessman. He knew how to put deals together. Reason why the waterfront of Detroit, Michigan looks the way it looks is because Kwame's dad, Kwame's mother, they knew who to talk to. And the only thing with Kwame Kilpatrick is he was patting his pocket, and then he got too arrogant. I believe Kwame would have been great, but he was too arrogant, and he felt like he didn't need to answer questions. Arrogant, and then he was young, party, he was having all these frivolous parties and unscrupulous parties with dancers and stuff like that. His wife beat up the stripper, the stripper that got killed. So in the end, the very end, only reason why I believe Kwame ended up getting caught up the way he got caught up is because he thought he didn't need to answer to somebody. He got too arrogant. But as far as like his business acumen, he was excellent. I mean, he knew about business. He knew how to put deals together. He knew how to bring business people together. And he actually was leading. Downtown was horrific. And he was ushering downtown into like what it was in its heyday in the 80s. And because downtown was a ghost town. But I believe it took them about a year to get Kwame locked up. Was he doing egregious stuff like Tiffany? He was having parties, but he wasn't doing stupid stuff like Tiffany. Tiffany's far worse. Tiffany's just not that smart. He's not that smart of a person. I don't think he was using the state, and I have to go back, but I don't think he was using the state funds to have parties and build, structures that's not approved. That wasn't happening. But he did make deals, to make sure certain people got certain contracts because they paid him, And that came out because I guess one guy was really mad at him because I think he paid him a kickback on the project. And I think Kwame tried to get more of a kickback. And he was like, no, that wasn't our deal. And I think that's what happened. The FBI was already looking into him. So he turned on Kwame. So that's how Kwame got caught up. All this other stuff, it was just a highlight or a flashlight on what he was doing. Parties at the mansion and all that stuff. I would go out to the clubs. It was a club they had Jeans and Moet night. Kwame would be at the club. Kwame was like, hey, what's up, Kwame? So, it wasn't like if you hung, because I live downtown, and if you hung downtown, you will frequently see all the heavy hitters downtown. So you knew where they hung out. And Kwame was a young guy. And, a lot of people liked him. He was real cool. He was real cool with the hood guys. He was real cool with the professionals. So he was a cool guy, but really smart. But he acted like he didn't have to answer to somebody. Anyway, he got caught up. It took him about a year. So Tiffany, way longer than a year. This is dragging out. So to Mike's point, yeah, maybe they could have reined it in. I said that all to say maybe, yeah, they could have reined it in. They could have brought Tiffany, put the brakes on her. Maybe they couldn't. It's a small town. Maybe they didn't think they had enough power to their seats to real Tiffany back in. Anyway. JP6, what's up, everybody? K-Mac, she hasn't made an announcement for either position. Yeah, so I don't think she's running. George says she is dumb, and they come and do arrogant as hell. She is sounding real weak now, feeling the pressure of zooming in on her. Yeah, do it, Pruitt. Yeah, she's feeling the pressure. Tiffany, she's probably got the BGs. You know how you in trouble. Your mom or dad said you better not do something, and you end up getting in trouble at school, and they called you, and you worry that they gonna call you to their bedroom and say, and they ask you real calmly, what did you do today? You like, I ain't do nothing today. And your bubble guts is bubbling over. That's what Tiffany feeling like. That's what Tiffany is feeling. K-Mac says she did whatever she wanted. They should have known something was wrong with her when she was hiring rapists to go into people's houses. Yeah, that wasn't good. Tiffany was just hiring criminals. Tiffany hired all the criminals. She was the epitome of, what's it, second chances. She was like the poster girl of second chances. A big AUB. Tiffany's been a criminal out the gate from breaking into cars, slumlords. She was terrible at the gate, so they should have held her accountable. No power corrupts. Thank you for doing this update. Thank you for tuning in. Tiffany Henyard is a boss. Yeah. Tiffany Henyard thinks she's a damn queen. Yeah, Tiffany Henyard, she was hiring all the people out on furlough, criminal backgrounds, and she wasn't doing background checks. And it's a requirement. It's a city requirement, state requirement. If you're gonna work in the government, you have to do background checks. She ignored that. She ignored that out the gate. I don't know, and I don't know why they let this get so far away from them. Because, time and time again, Tiffany proved that she wasn't fit for the job. After that first recall, I think they should have made efforts to recall her again. They should have really tried to get her out that seat. Because the first recall, it was some type of technicality that they couldn't, the judge ruled in Tiffany's favor. I would have been doing I would have been a diligent resident. No, we're going to recall her. We're going to try it again and collect all those signatures. But, Tiffany is very charismatic. She does have some people in her corner. She does look out for you. She passes out chitlins and the seniors love it. She passes out water. She has bingo night and give out big prizes like stoves and TVs and refrigerators that cost about $2,000. So yeah, they're gonna love her. They're gonna love her. Oh, we can go to bingo night and we could win a TV that's $500 on the taxpayer's dime. That's probably what some of that $3,000 that she spent on Amazon probably went towards some of the bingo stuff. Anyway, you guys, I really appreciate every single last one of you guys. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel. Also, I do have another channel that you could subscribe to. Matter of fact, starting in September, this channel is called Unpopular Opinion. Starting in September, I do have a co-host that we're going to do morning live 30-minute streams. And we're talking about mainly politics and cultural events that's, daily or current events that's happening in our culture. Okay. So please subscribe to that particular channel. And I'm sending all my good to you. I will talk to you tomorrow.